Buried in a no wail of triumph fallen king's ribs, ash hangs unyielding, Atreus' bowstring hums taut as a vow, his breath crystallizes in the underworld's cold. Odin's cloak swallows the horizon, but the true spectre lingers in Erebos Hades' hollow eyes, tracking the boy king's first blood, no wail of triumph. God who taught as a knows this vow moment is not an end, and Hades, they witness spectre it lingers in Erebos Hades' hollow eyes. They witness spectre it lingers in Erebos Hades' hollow eyes, guardian of what must be, king's first lets the blood blade fall. Hades saw the storm before it struck, not as enemy but archivist. The underworld's ruler watched Kratos' rage carve its path, each god fallen, each debt unpaid. In 2018, when the Spartan breached his realm, Hades did not bar the gates. He let the dead rise, let the blade fall. Why? Because fate is not a chain to bind, but a mirror to hold. The god who guards forgotten truths knew Kratos' end would birth a new beginning. A cycle not to break but bear witness to. What does a god of silence gain by letting the storm rage? The answer lies in the echoes Kratos left behind, ashes, not answers, and Hades, ever the keeper of what must be, waits. The blade's shadow stretched across Sparta's blood-soaked soil. Kratos, fevered with Ares' poison, carved through temple doors. His wife screamed sharp, broken echoed the same syllables. Asterisk no asterisk, too late. Lysandra's body crumpled, Calliope's small hand cold in hers, a god's wrath mistaken for immortals. The temple floor drank their names, Hades saw it all. His halls, built on endings, swallowed every cry, not out of malice, but certainty. The dead do not lie. Kratos' fury was not a storm to be quenched. It was a floodgate. To interfere would be to unmake what must be. The god of silence let the screams rise, unanswered. What does a ruler of the dead guard most? Not bones, not souls, the weight of asterisk. Why asterisk? Kratos' vengeance was never his to claim. It was a chain forged in Olympus' hubris, dropped into Hades' realm. The god-king watched, unblinking, as the curse took root. Ares' betrayal, a thread. The true tapestry, a man's rage, a god's patience. The underworld's depths hold no mercy, only memory, and Hades, keeper of both, let Kratos' grief become his destiny. The storm raged, the halls echoed, and the sovereign, ever still, waited for the reckoning no blade could reach. The pact bled before it bound. Ares' blade split Kratos' palm, but the god's own heart split wider. Flame and iron fused flesh to myth. The ghost of Sparta was no accident. Ares hungered for a weapon. He forged a tempest. The Spartan screams became the underworld's dirge. Each syllable a stone added to Hades' silent ledger. Persephone's voice, cold as her realm, whispered in chains of Olympus. Asterisk, you think gods cannot die. Asterisk, her crown of poppies bloomed with answers Kratos would not yet grasp. Odin's spear pierced his side at Mimir's well, but Kratos' spear pierced deeper into the soul. The All-Father's sacrifice bought wisdom. Kratos bought annihilation. Both men bled into madness. Yet only one's madness was a god's design. Hades did not twist the blade, he let it sink. Let Atreus' name rot in the shadows. Let the fates spin their lies. Why? Because the sovereign sees endings written in ash. The Ares pact was a noose, not a lifeline. Kratos' rage, once a furnace, became a flood. He drowned cities in it, drowned his children's memories. Hades watched the waters rise. Persephone's roots tightened in the soil, anchoring his path. Did he know the Leviathan would gnaw at his bones? Did he know the blade of Olympus would carve his destiny into the moon? Of course. The underworld's ruler needs storms to feed his realm. Odin's eye, lost for knowledge, paled beside Kratos' self-erasure. The Spartan king's soul became a cipher, a vessel for the old god's war. Hades did not lure him. He lent him a stage. Every murder, every betrayal was a brick in the pyre that would consume Olympus. The sovereign's silence was not malice, it was arithmetic. The reckoning was never about Kratos, it was about the price of a god's patience. And when the final blade fell, Hades would collect, not as villain, as archivist. As the keeper of all things inevitable. Kratos stands at the threshold. Ares' blood dries on his blades. The underworld's gate groans, but Hades does not rise. The god of war kneels, not in submission. In finality, his son's fate is a shadow here, unspoken, unshaped. Hades watches as Kratos severs the cycle, a god's death not for power, to unmake a prophecy. The silence between heartbeats is a language only the dead understand. Atreus, centuries later, faces the realm between. his choice fractures reality. A boy's grief becomes a storm. Hades, now elder of two worlds, does not intervene. He has seen this moment 1,000 times. The boy must break the chain. Must not become what his father became. The god of the underworld guards not with chains, with patience. He knows what no other god does. Kratos' path was never about vengeance. It was about proving the futility of it. When the Greek blades met Ares' throat, Hades felt the weight lift. A god's arrogance buried, replaced by a mortal's resolve. No Olympian understood. They saw a killer. Hades saw a fulcrum, a man who could pivot the axis of destiny. He let Kratos take the title, let him bleed across Europe. Let him father a son who would repeat the sins until the son learned the lesson. The Norse saga is the echo. Atreus' journey is the correction. Hades' silent sovereign collects not souls, but truths. Kratos' bloodline is his archive, his warning. Ares died to make a man. Baldur will die to make a god. And Hades will watch, as he always has. The cycle breaks not with a scream, but a sigh. A god's hands, once stained with war, now cradle a future he could never write. Hades knows the end. He lets it come. The cost was etched in silence. The dead whispered it. As Olympus fell, Hades stood unmoving, a sentinel to the chaos he could not stop. His realm, the first to mourn, the last to forget. What price a god pays to witness an end he cannot avert. His blade once hovered at Kratos' throat. A choice unspoken, the cold bit deeper than death. What he did not say became the law of dust. The Olympians fell like ash-choked stars. Their thrones crumbled. Mortals drowned in the wails of gods. Hades, in his vaulted dark, saw the pattern no other dared face. Balance is not a gift, it is a ledger. Kratos' blade did not just sever Zeus' crown. It shattered the chains that bound hope to the void. A spark leapt, Ragnarok's gears turned. Did Hades weep? The underworld's ruler holds the tears of empires. He let the storm come. Let Athens burn, let Sparta rise. Let Kratos' hands, already stained with Ares' blood, carve the door to Asgard. The god of the dead knew what the living could not. Some doors, once opened, become tombs for entire worlds. In the end, when the 9 realms cracked, when the frost giant's breath froze the skies, Hades did not reach out. He had seen Kratos' path in the bones of the earth, seen the boy who would become a weapon. A weapon necessary to unmake a tyranny older than the Muses. The final act of Go W3, hope, that fickle savior, released like a shackle broken. Hades watched. No cheer, no curse, only the quiet calculus of a god who understands that hope too can be a chain, the cost, a pantheon's death, a world's rebirth. And Hades, forever the silent sovereign, bearing the weight of what was needed, what was done, what must never be undone, the law of dust, the price of dawn. Hades watched the blade carve its arc, not with rage, with the stillness of a tide holding its breath. While Zeus hurled thunder and Ares sharpened his knives, the underworld's king let Kratos walk the path he knew the Spartan would take. A god who sees an end need not shout warnings. He waits. Let the cycle bleed. Let the blood of old gods water the soil. Kratos, the ghost of Sparta, became a father. Atreus, the boy who carried a wolf's tooth, learned to shape his own shadow. Hades saw both as threads in a tapestry older than Olympus. The god of passage understood. Some doors must slam shut for others to open. When Kratos shattered the world's serpent's spine, when he released hope like a dove into the Norse skies, Hades did not weep. He nodded. The price of dawn had been paid. What did the silent sovereign guard? Not chains, not curses. The law of dust, all things must unmake to make. Kratos' vengeance was never the end. It was the pivot. A man who killed gods could not rule men. A boy who learned his father's sins could choose a new name. Loki, Freya, the names shift, the lesson remains. Hades' realm is not a prison. It is a mirror. Every soul that crosses his threshold carries the weight of what came before. Kratos' journey was not a storm to be calmed. It was a seed buried in the ash of old wars, watered by the tears of a boy who became a wolf. The cycle broke not with a sword. Not with a scream, with a child's question. What if I choose differently? Hades heard it. He had always heard it. The only god who knew the answer. The only god who let the answer grow. Hades watches from his hollow throne. The underworld breathes, but its ruler does not. Kratos' footsteps echo there still. A ghost of war, a shadow of debt. The god who guards what mortals fear most let the ghost of Sparta walk his domain. Let him take what he needed. Let him leave with the truth unspoken. Ragnarok's fire faded, Odin's reign broke, Kratos and Atreus stand now on the edge of a new age. The 9 realms hold their breath. Balance, fragile and unproven, rests not in war, but in what remains unsaid. Hades knew this, knew the price of a god's silence. Knew the boy who would become a god would need to choose his own path. The underworld's doors stay open, no chains, no curses. Only a sovereign who understands endings are not, they are thresholds. Hades did not fight fate, he became its keeper. Let the dead rest, let the living wonder. Let Kratos walk forward not as a prisoner of the past, but as its witness. The silence is not emptiness, it is a promise. And promises once made outlast even gods. Hades watched the Spartan's blade carve through Olympus. Zeus screamed his rage, Hades said nothing. The dead do not plead, balance does not shout. Kratos' weapon in the gods' war became a shield for those who followed. In Greece he failed to hold his son. In the north he learned to be held. A paradox sharpened by silence. The underworld's keeper saw what others could not. Rage unbound would shatter the world, yet rage bound would forge it anew. A father's love fractured by betrayal became the anvil. Zeus, blind to his own reflection, wielded Kratos like a sword. Hades, seeing the sword's edge, would one day turn inward. Let it happen. Let the Spartan bleed. Let the boy become a god. The final mirror is not between father and son. It is between the god who speaks in thunder and the god who speaks in absence. Between vengeance and the weight of what must be carried. Hades did not plot, he observed. He knew the price of endings. Knew Kratos' destiny was never to rule, but to release, to become the ghost that haunts the threshold between worlds. A father's love, once lost, becomes a weapon, then a shield, then a silence that outlives the storm. Hades, the silent sovereign, did not fight fate, he became its keeper. And in his silence the only truth remained. Some promises are not made to be kept, they are made to be carried. In the silence between realms, Hades watched the Spartan's path carve its scar, not with malice. With the patience of a gardener tending a root that must rot to feed the tree. The underworld's keeper knew the price of hope. How its release, that final act in the storm of Olympus, would scatter seeds across mortal dreams, a legacy not of defiance, but of surrender. The crimson cloak torn by time, dyed by the blood of gods and kingstones not flutter. It hangs, a flag of a war already won. Hades did not chain Kratos. He lent him a role in a drama older than the Titan's breath. Every blade, every scream, a thread in the loom of what must be. What is a god but a witness? Hades held the map while Kratos drew the lines. When the Spartan released hope, he did not free men from chains. He bound them to a story where even gods grow tired of fighting. The void beyond the asphodel fields is endless. The remains, that fields is endless, Spartan red, whispering in the dark, not a symbol of rage, of a fate too heavy to carry, too true to abandon, and the cape still. Always still, waiting for the next shadow to wear it. The asphodel fields never lied. Hades watched Kratos' blade carve through his realm, cold iron singing hymns of inevitability. Persephone's voice, sharp as a reaped wheat stalk, whispered asterisk he will break chainseers, then his asterisk during his cursed service. Did he smile? The throne of bones hummed, not with malice, but the slow grind of a gear in a grander machine. What else did Hades know? What other fates did he let unfold? The next dossier peels back the roots of that whisper, how Persephone's chains asterisk became asterisk Kratos. Stay.